Call the meeting to order for August 25th, Assembly meeting. Stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Paxton,
Here.
Ms. Nelson,
Here.
Mr. Knox,
Here.
Dr. Ween,
Here.
Mr. Mosier,
Here.
and I don't see Tor on the line. He wasn't sure if he'd be able to call in or not, but it doesn't look like he's on the line. And then Stephen is absent as well this evening.
Any changes to correspondent or agenda changes? Under ceremonial matters, we do have a service award for Howie Pitts. He's not going to be here, but I'm going to read this anyway. Service award on behalf of the City and Borough of Sitka is hereby presented to Howie Pitts. This is an expression of grateful acknowledgement for your personal time given to keep the grounds of the animal shelter well groomed. Thank you. Signed and sealed this 25th day of August 2020 by me and attested by the municipal clerk. Also, Howie, for all the great work you did in our fire department. Yes, please.
I'd also like to give a shout out to Mr. Howie Pitts. He's a gentleman and a scholar and has just performed just a long history of service with good humor, and it's always a pleasure when I see him walking down the hall coming towards me.
And
So,
grit.
yeah, absolutely. So,
Right, yeah. God bless you, man. We're in the special reports. We do have something from the administrator wants concerning the alert levels. John?
I do, thanks, Mayor, and I'm holding this at the beginning just so we have a bigger audience here, but I just wanted to get some information to the public for us kind of switching our reporting on our case count. We're lining up with the state's recommendations on the local mitigation guidance. I'm sorry I don't have a slide to put up on the screen or anything, but this is on the state's COVID website. It discusses a 14-day rolling average of the number of cases in your community, and we've adjusted that for Sitka's population. So scaled down from 100,000 population to approximately 10,000 population when we have the visitors. So what you'll see in our press releases now is we'll have a chart here that gives the alert level and then some graphics on what is recommended to be done given the alert level. And we're also in the process of building an addition to our website that a lot of the other communities are using. If you look at City of Juneau or Ketchikan, they have a COVID dashboard now with all the data you could hope to see. And we've got a team working on that now. So hopefully by next week, we will have that data site up and running on our website so everybody can get on there real time. It'll be updated daily, and they can see what alert level we're in, if any, and they can see what the status of the schools are. This is going to be very important for the parents and teachers right now. So we'll keep putting out the press releases, but at some point, the press releases are going to start to trail off. And then we'll be reporting our cases on the website, and people can always go there anytime to get the real-time data.
What is the level for the school right now? Is it still yellow?
Right now, the school is in their low level. We're right at the threshold from the lowest to moderate. We're at a 0.5 average.
All right. We are now under persons to be heard on any item not on the agenda. Consent agenda, there's no items. Board commission appointments, none. We are now under new business ordinance 2045. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve ordinance 2020-45 on first reading, amending the official zoning map to rezone lot 2-2 Sheldon Jackson Campus subdivision number 2 from multifamily residential R2 to cemetery C.
Second.
I have a public comment, but we have someone that you're going to call. We'll have public comment, and then we'll also have someone who's going to call in. Any public comment on this item? Sarah?
I'm calling Steve Hartford with Sitka Tribe of Alaska.
Hello?
Hi, Steve. It's Sarah Peterson calling
Hi.
from the Assembly meeting. We are at item A. It is your turn for public comment. If you could state your name for the record, and then your time will begin.
Yes, good evening. Steve Hartford. I'm currently the legal director for Sitka Tribe of Alaska. And I want to say good evening to the members of the Assembly, and thank you for hearing me this evening. I'm here calling on behalf of the tribe, and of course, this is the tribe sees the historic cemetery there on Sawmill Creek Road, which was immediately adjacent to the Samuel Jackson campus, as a significant cultural site, both for the community at large and the tribal community as well. There are graves there that are of our native citizens, ancestors of our current native citizens are buried there. Our local sort of unofficial historian, Mr. Bob Sam, told me that not only do we have ancestors of tribal citizens that are buried there, but also there were orphans that were actually brought to Sitka from other parts of Alaska by Samuel Jackson and some of his other missionaries who were of native origin and later died at some point in Sitka and were buried there in that cemetery. So again, it has quite a bit of historic and cultural significance for the tribe. This newer zoning designation as an historic cemetery sort of heightens the goal of preserving it as an historic site. It allows us to do some work there and identify the graves and maintain the property or upgrade the property over time, as well as to apply for appropriate grant funding for the preservation of that site. As long as we've known, it's always been a cemetery for many, many years, and it's going to continue to be a cemetery. It's going to continue to be a cultural site for the community. Of course, we support the recommendation and the decision of the Planning Commission, which approved the recommendation to you as the Assembly to have this rezoned as an historic cemetery. That was our request, and again, we thank you for your consideration, and we ask for your support.
Right. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Comments from the public? Yeah, back to, it's amazing how fast time goes, because it seemed like when I just became mayor, this was an issue that we started pursuing for all the right reasons, and here we are. Colonel, other comments from the Assembly?
I think this is something very good, and that I remember when this first came to the Assembly's attention when they wanted to rezone that entire area, which wanted it to rezone for, I'll say, more, commercial uses. And within that rezoning was the cemetery area. And I'm very happy that it was picked up at that time that this was a cemetery. And at the time it was removed from that zoning request was removed, and this is the intelligent result of those meetings. And actually it really wasn't noted when that zoning request was made. So I'm very happy that this has occurred. I think that I know that even potentially some of my people I care about's families are actually buried there, so there's kind of a personal thing. And I don't know whether Mr. Hartford was talking about Sheldon Jackson or Samuel Jackson, who is the actor. I don't know if there is someone here in Sitka who was named Samuel, who was a Presbyterian minister as well. But needless to say, this is a good thing. It's supported, and actually it's a long time overdue.
Other comments from the Assembly? Call for the vote.
Okay, on the motion to approve ordinance 2020-45 on first reading, Mayor Paxton,
Yes.
Nope, Mr. Christensen isn't here. Mr. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
Dr. Ween,
Yes.
and Ms. Nelson.
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0 on first reading.
We're now at item B, ordinance 2046. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve ordinance 2020-46 on first reading, making supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 2021, fiscal year 2020 purchase orders.
Second.
Comments from the public? Back to the assembly. Comments from the assembly? Yes, Dr. Wayne.
In the memorandum, I don't know, this is now a technical thing, it says the accounting system for the municipality is not able to maintain unexpired operating. Could that have been not allowed, meaning doing to something, or it is the computer software that doesn't let you do this? That would be one question. And the other one is I was wondering if we could have finance come up, because this isn't something that people would look in their packets for, if we can have, the 60-second explanation of what this ordinance is about and what the monies are, if that could be, please.
Sure, and this is just a software limitation, so we come forward. Essentially what we do is we manually reduce the FY20 appropriation and move it to FY21. The purpose of this is really those expenditures that are in progress. And I can just, as I've done in previous years, I can read through a few of them to give you a flavor. This year you see that a significant portion are due to, or in the central garage. And that was largely due, the amount in central garage that's being carried over is larger than in prior years. Because of COVID, there were shutdowns that impacted the ability. So we'd already started the purchase. We had a purchase order in progress, but we don't have the piece of equipment yet. Some examples there are the excavator that was approved in the FY20 budget. That's still in progress, and that's $197,000. We have ride-on lawn mowers. Some other examples are we have street aggregate, so that's sand and gravel for the streets. That's $24,000 in the general fund. So again, these are all just purchases that are in progress that have not yet been paid for.
Thank you.
Other comments from the assembly? Call for the vote. Oh. Yeah, call for the vote.
Okay, on the motion to approve ordinance 2020-46 on first reading, Mr. Knox,
Yes.
Mayor Paxton,
Yes.
Dr. Ween,
Yes.
Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
and Ms. Nelson.
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0 on first reading. Item B.
Item C, may I have a motion, please?
I move to approve ordinance 2020-47 on first reading, making supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 2020 and 2021, reappropriations and supplemental appropriations.
Second.
Public comment? And back to the assembly. Yes.
Again, if finance could comment on this. For example, it says that depreciation was under budgeted, and yet there's an appropriation for $94,610, and that sounds like real money. I always viewed depreciation as not real cash. Anyway, if you could explain, as you did previously at the last motion, what this is all about and how the depreciation works and why $94,000 has to be reappropriated.
Sure, and we do budget for depreciation. In this case, it's not a cash outlay. But in this case, the fund will go over budget if we don't have the correct amount budgeted. And this was a case, the reason it was, we had an asset that went into operation mid-year. So the prior year, we'd already only budgeted 6 months worth of depreciation. And so it was just an oversight there. Again, it's not cash outlays, but we do record depreciation as an expense in our enterprise funds. I think one of the other ones, we had an overage. We went over budget in the Fisheries Enhancement Fund. We always do our best with budgeting, but budgets are guesses. In this case, it was actually good because we received more fish box tax than we had anticipated. By code, we have to take a certain percentage to give out for the grants, and it was over by about $2,400. The other ones that we have here, we're reappropriating fixed assets. These are based on grants we have from Homeland Security to its police equipment. And, we have the money committed, but the expense is crossing fiscal years. So I think
Thank
that
you.
covers it.
Yeah,
Comments from
thank
the
you.
assembly? Call for the vote. Thank you, Melissa.
Okay, on the motion to approve ordinance 2020-47 on first reading, Dr. Ween,
Yes.
Ms. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
and Mayor Paxton.
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0 on first reading.
We are now at item D. May I have a motion?
I move to approve ordinance 2020-48 on first reading, making supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 2021, Green Lake Phase 1 supplemental capital appropriation.
Second.
Comments from the public? Back to the assembly. Dr. Ween?
A couple of things caught my eye a little bit. One, I would think it not unreasonable to explain why the $1.3 million cash
Scott, Melissa?
appropriation needs to be made, but I would like you to put that into the context of you're needing it because of the, I'll say, change in timing with the USDA loan procedure. And it says that we hope to have the USDA loan appropriation. And when you use words like that in finance, context one is this loan guaranteed? And if the loan is not guaranteed, meaning you're going to get it, it's just a question of filling out paperwork, what's plan B? And the other one, context, is if you look at the if we looked at the packet we got here at the air, and you look at the funding, at the funds, there's like a $2 million bracket in the electric department. And so how does all of this shape up in context?
Before we hear from Melissa and did you want to make a comment about the process?
I do, please, and
I
thank you,
just
Mayor.
wanted to point out that it is in the analysis that you wrote in the memo. And I know that the public doesn't see that, but those documents are available online.
Yeah, thank you, Assembly members. I knew this one was going to be a lot of discussion here, as I have lots of questions myself. As you know, our Green Lake rehab is a very past due necessity, to the point where we're taking a lot of risk in insurance with the maintenance that has not been done for a long period of time on that facility. So we're kind of playing catch up with getting this facility back in order. Mr. Bevan, when he was sitting in this seat, I believe briefed you on this and the 3 phases of the project. And the first phase of that project was anticipated to be a $3 million low-interest USDA loan. It was approved to go after that loan. We applied for it. Rates went down, which was great news. And we found out that with the same debt service, we could afford a $4 million loan instead of a $3 million loan. However, with the rates going down to where they are, now everybody wants a USDA loan, for probably similar reasons as us. That said, the USDA is somewhat backlogged, and it's taking some more time to get this loan approval through. We continued with the bid process while we were waiting on the loan decision, and now we have a handful of good bids, and we're running out of time to get the work done. So there's a lot of, I'll call them COAs, courses of action that we can take, but this is the recommended one where we go
But you
for.
have been in constant communication
Absolutely.
with USDA, and they are assuring us we're going to get the loan, right?
Yeah, we have heard nothing different. Everything's been going smoothly. They are just backlogged.
Okay. I mean, I didn't mean, yeah, if you have. You did. But I wanted to hear from, I want to hear from the administrator because he's been, so Scott and Melissa, you want to?
And I think one thing to emphasize is that, you know, we very much hope that we don't have to use this appropriation, that we get the Green Lake loan in and we can just go to that. We would then come back and reduce this appropriation. But we cannot award the bid. We don't have enough of an appropriation to award the bid right now. So this appropriation is what will allow us to award the contract.
Currently, if I can interject, it's our plan to try and award the bid by September 18th. We have a couple of very good contractors and very good bids in place. Because of the timeline we need to, for the project, we need to get the bid rolling in order to make it happen this year. And part of that process is we have to draw down Green Lake to a certain water level so that the work can be accomplished over the winter. So if we were to delay this, then it would cost us time, which again would have to be rebid, which is again money, and of course costs don't necessarily go down with time. So we find it to be in the best fiscal interest to go ahead and say, hey, while we don't want to spend our dear capital money that we have sitting in an investment fund profiting us at the moment, in excess of what the USDA loan rates are at, which are significantly less, it makes good fiscal finance for us to say, oh, we want to move forward with this at this point, and then as the USDA loan money comes in, go ahead and use that for it. So that's our intention. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I just, one of the basic questions is, I'm a contingency kind of guy, and I like to have plans if things don't exactly work out. There are a lot of things going on in this country, et cetera. There may be, for example, extraordinary USDA delays in getting this, or they may, for whatever reason, not give it. What is the plan B if these loans do not come out and we are already committed to this work?
I think one thing that's important to keep in mind is that this is a multi-phase project. You know, if the loan funds are delayed, you know, beyond where we can use them for this phase, we would certainly work to have them available for the next phase of the project. We did, so we have already gone through, we refunded our callable bonds earlier this year. That resulted in significant annual debt savings. It also, in doing the refunding, they recalculated the amount of money we had to have set aside in our debt service reserve. So we do have working capital available to put toward the project. Again, there's the capital needs for the electric utility are significant. We need that money for other things. We still need the loan funds. But it's, you know, we can continue with this first phase of the project if the USDA loan is delayed.
And how does that affect overall I'll say the indebtedness of the electric department based on the records that were presented to us in the packet? How does that affect us and our cash flow? And I also know that we have lots of other bonds which require certain amounts of cash flow. How does all of this come into play.
As it's capital spending, it doesn't impact our bond covenants. We are saving going forward with the bond refunding we just did. We're also entering into an advanced refunding deal for a number of our other issuances. So that's in progress right now. We don't know, where the savings are yet, but it's looking like it's going to be, a significant amount of savings. But in general, because our debt service is going down, and this is capital spending, which doesn't impact the bond covenant. It's really the bond covenant looks at operating spending. It's not going to have a significant impact. The debt service on the new loan is going to be, the annual debt service is going to be less than what we saved from the first round of refunding.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, just one more thing, and then that's it on this issue. And that is, I like words, and we hear this, unfortunately, too many times, meaning putting us into panic mode. And the rhetoric here is Green Lake, if we don't do something, Green Lake plant will catastrophically fail, meaning we would have to meet electrical demands by burning diesel. And I know that these are true, but it is almost like the notion if we don't do it, there's going to be a sky fall. And I just, when I see that, I go, oh, really? Why don't you present just the case for wanting the money as you have without having to add that extra interesting rhetorical spice to the memorandum? So, I don't know. But that's just a personal aside. So I'm sorry, Valerie, go ahead.
I think the main concern of the public is if we do go forward with this, if what I'm hearing is correct, that it's a capital improvement, it won't be an automatic 10 cents per kilowatt hour rate increase come budget time next spring. And that's first and foremost in importance in my mind. Thank you.
Other comments from the Assembly? Yeah, please.
I do want to add that I apologize if it came across as a sky is falling moment. The intent is to really just lay out the risks for everyone to evaluate fully. And the risk that's important to me now is with deferred maintenance is a higher possibility for failure, to the point that we're having discussions with our insurance company because of it. Any deferred maintenance, if we don't proceed with these projects, doesn't mean the sky is falling and things are going to start failing, but insurance companies start seeing our risk going higher, which equals higher insurance rates for us.
Thank you. Yeah, Val.
And I'd just like to make one final comment or suggestion. After the newly elected people get into office this fall or in a couple months, I would encourage you to make time in the show and tell trip to get them out there so they can see that. I was fortunate to have a brother-in-law that explained things, or my brother that explained things to me, but when we did our, introduction or whatever, we ran out of time, and I don't believe we got to get out there and see what condition it really is in. Thank you.
We did not get to the dams. Anything else? Yes, Scott.
I was going to say that, Valerie, I think you hit something on the head there, and that is that assessment and that understanding of what is out there and what condition that things are in is really important. And the cost of not getting that information early so our finance department can make plans, so we can make plans on where our investment goes is really critical in saving money in the long run. So that assessment is part of this stage one. We'll be taking a look at the generators and the turbines in that, which will help us to look at that long-range picture and understand where we're at.
Scott, Melissa, thank you. Call for the vote, please.
Okay, on the motion to approve ordinance 2020-48 on first reading, Dr. Ween,
Yes.
Mr. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
Mayor Paxton,
Yes.
and Ms. Nelson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 on first reading.
Excuse me. We are now at item 169, which is updated discussion of the CARES Act Working Group progress. Before the assembly talks, I want to make it open to the public now. For anybody in the public who wants to come forward and announce thoughts, comments, ideas related to this, we're welcome to hear from the public. Okay, please, Marshall. Yeah. As you sit down, I just want to remind the public when you come forward, this is the time, you got 3 minutes to talk to us. It's not an interactive kind of thing. Please, Marshall, go right ahead.
How we doing? I'm Marshall Albertson. This might take me a few more seconds, over 3 minutes. You're just going to have to indulge me. On this CARES Act, when COVID first hit and you guys started deciding who's going to be closed, who's going to be essential, all three of my businesses were essential businesses. I put in for the PPP money, and all three of my businesses got paid through the feds. Now, come to this CARES Act, I go and I do my appropriate paperwork for all three of my businesses, and all three of my businesses are under one umbrella, Absolute Tree Care. But I have separate tax ID numbers and everything for the city of Sitka to pay my taxes and everything. And then I just found out the other day that the CARES Act money that is to help Sitkans, only one of my businesses now is going to be eligible for that, which I think is BS, seeing all three of my businesses were essential businesses. All three received the PPP money, and I'm not the only business out there that is being affected by this. So basically, how I take it is that the city of Sitka is saying, well, I think one of your businesses is worth saving, but the other two could fall by the wayside. And it is just absolutely unacceptable. When I first found out about this last week, I was livid. I went and talked to my lawyer. He thinks that because I did, the feds paid the PPP, and now that the city wants to hold back the CARES Act, I absolutely have a lawsuit. He said it's one we definitely could win. The only thing is, I was informed if I file this lawsuit, then it'll hold up all the CARES Act money. So therein lies a quandary. You know, do I do what's right for me and my businesses? Or do I lay down and take it in the backside so everybody else's money isn't held up? I just think it's absolutely insane that we going to give money to all these nonprofits and everything around here, and the businesses that actually create revenue. And I don't even want to get into how much I pay the city in taxes every year, but it's a lot. And if you guys are going to be picking winners and losers with this CARES Act money, I just think you're off base, 100% wrong. And I have to make a decision by tomorrow at noon on whether I'm going to go ahead and sue the city of Sitka to get what I think I have coming to me, or back off so none of the other money's held up for any other citizens of Sitka. So I did a letter to the editor Friday, and I basically broke it down just like I did here, and I asked the citizens of Sitka, what would you do? Because you know what, I really would like their input, and I have gotten a lot of input thus far. I'm hoping to get a little bit more. And on one more quick subject with the CARES Act money, one of my employees I just was informed of earlier today at Munchie Mart, he's been here, he's been my employee all year, last year too. He's been a renter, pays his utility bills and everything, and he was denied for his CARES Act money. And this is an individual. I mean, you know, it goes back to where I was talking before about we need to be a little bit business friendly and stuff in this community. Well, taking care of our businesses and our individuals, where's all this other money going to go? I mean, what are they going to do with it? I know you can't answer me back, but if it's not going to the people and the businesses, where is it all going? Because I know my businesses, they want to give me money for one business, even though three were deemed essential businesses, and the PPP paid all three, but you guys have decided that this is not going to happen. And I would really like to hear you guys address not only me, but the people of Sitka, and let them know and answer the question, because I'm pissed.
Okay,
Thank
thank you, Marshall. Right? Any other comments from the public? Once, twice? Okay, we're back to the assembly. Yes, all right.
As somebody that does accounting for quite a few businesses in town, I have a tendency to agree with what the speaker said. I and my husband have several businesses. We only qualified for one electrical subsidy because we only have one city sales tax account. But if they have 3 separate city sales tax accounts, I think each business should be eligible for those credits. I don't think we should be making it harder for people. I've sat in a beauty shop chair, I've sat in a dentist chair, and I'm talking and hearing all these stories of disparity about how people are being, singled out or treated or denied. And I don't agree with stuff, and maybe I'm only hearing one side of the story, but to me, it seems to make sense that if they have 3 separate sales tax account numbers with the city, they should be eligible for 3 separate grants. It's kind of like the business things that I filled out today. I did 2 of the business grant, and it's a lot of paperwork to do it. And I turned it in, one for one person that I do accounting for, another for another, and each of those people only has one city sales tax account. But I do know that there are people that have several businesses, several sales tax accounts. They're reported differently. One's like a Schedule C, one's a Schedule E, one's like a 1020, and one's an 1165. I mean, and the only reason I know a little bit about what's going on and who's making the decisions or who's filtering these things is because I called today. I had a question. My federal tax return for 2018 just got finished due to some litigation we were involved in, and it's 19 pages long. And I said, you guys want the whole 19 pages? No, it turns out they only need 1 page. But I really do agree that if you have 3 separate sales tax numbers, you should be able to qualify for 3 separate grants. Thank you.
Before we hear from the administrator, I'm sure the will of the assembly is that we distribute this money fairly to our business and nonprofit community to ensure that they can get through this as best they can. And I don't know and understand the mechanisms they go through to make judgments on whether there's 1 or 3 businesses. But that's certainly the intent of that we do this for the benefit and survivability of our community. Okay, Mr. Administrator, you want to go from there and continue the discussion? And
Yes, Mayor, I can start from the top, or I can start addressing the questions. Which
why don't we
would you
just-
prefer?
Let's just address this question here if we can.
Okay.
And then go from the top.
Addressing this question specifically, we started this process back in March with drafts of our applications and our FAQs and the way the program was going to work. And right now, we're almost a month into our application process with an application that had been passed and approved by this body. And I understand that we can change it if we want to change the process and include separate sales tax numbers and issue grants. If that is an option, I would assume that we would need to issue a new application, adjust the FAQs, and start over. Because there were many people who have moved on with just applying for one when they may have 3 or 4. So we would have to, in my opinion, extend this process, issue new applications, and start the review process over again. Or the option is we wait till the end of this application period, look at what is left in the funds, and let the body decide how they would like to distribute the remaining funds. If we want to do another round of business grants, I'm not saying that is a possibility yet, because I won't know for 5 or 6 more days how much money is left in this specific category. But that's also an option. We could do more targeted grants based on impact to the economy. There's a multitude of options, and the work group has already started talking about ways to look at a economic multiplier of sorts to see where we can do the most good. But it's going to take at least until the next assembly session to come up with some numbers on number of applicants and how much of the funding is still available.
Well, my view, and then I'd like you to go through the process, but the latter is better than the former. I mean, if we had $1 million left over in the electrical thing, we'll probably have money left over that we can make appropriate adjustments based on what we've learned from this. It's a complex process, by the way. And but anyway, stop talking past. Just let's go ahead and let him go from the top. Yes, sir.
If he goes from the top, he'll be off the subject, and while it's still topical,
Whatever
might
the will of
I
the
ask
assembly is.
Yeah,
a
it'd be nice to
directed
just kind of
question?
come to a resolution on this specific one.
Yeah.
Because I do think
Okay.
a lot of people are
Yeah.
concerned about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
In hearing the commentary here, one thing is that clearly this passed me by, and that is I'd like to hear what the decision-making process was to not deal with it as individual tax IDs. And since this was apparently a conscious decision that was made, and I don't recall it at the table, could you please expand as to what the reasoning was to not include individual tax ID numbers when making this decision?
I think, John, there needs to be clarification too. I'm part of the working group, and we're not trying to make arbitrary decisions to make anything unfair. I mean, I had no idea how hard it was to spend money that's not yours, that's given to you, to be fair. It's my recollection that we did this to be as fair as possible and to prevent people from, so to speak, gaming the system, and people, I could have my tax ID and have companies A, B, C, D, E, F, and G all the way to the whole alphabet. There is no perfect situation or solution. This was the best idea. I did not think about, though, at the time, about the fact that, like the speaker who brought up that a company having, even though one EIN with several DBAs, each of those DBAs having a separate sales tax ID. I hadn't thought about that, and I apologize. This is very difficult, and it surely was not anyone's intention to cause any suffering or harm or not service. It's taken a lot of work to try to come up with something that's as fair and equitable as possible. It's not something that was taken lightly. I don't know what I think about starting from scratch. It seems to me the best thing would be to let this application period go through, distribute the funds, and then I know John had mentioned something about more targeted. I actually would prefer if we have leftover funds to just do it all over again, but maybe at that time change it to include if you have a separate sales tax ID. I don't know, but I think if we were to start over, it would slow down the disbursement of funds. That's my thought.
I'm sorry, Val, it's still in my question mode since this was kind of derailed, that this was apparently a conscious decision. And it would seem that, or let me put it this way, I don't understand how having a separate city tax ID can game the system, because what that does is you're paying into it. And what I don't understand is that would be actually the simplest way to distribute funds was through tax IDs. And so this is where I don't understand. So, Mr. Knox, please enlighten us.
So part of the discussion also included the fact that we were trying to distribute funds to nonprofit organizations in Sitka and other entities that don't have city sales tax numbers. So that was why we went to the federal EIN as the part of the designation or the identifier. That way we were able to capture the actual organization, the validity and the work that they do, or the kind of business that they are. Because nonprofits also have EINs. Anyone that does, work in Sitka in a fundraising capacity or in a for-profit capacity will have that number. So that's why we lean more towards that. And Kevin's right, like we somewhat anticipated having some funds left over, and then after that, there was the thought that we could have a more robust discussion or application period that would provide additional funding in a second round that would reflect the economic multipliers or the number of employees that are serviced or different things like that. But it's a much more robust and probably lengthy process within that. So what we are really trying to do is using the EIN, get money out as quick as we could, and then revisit this in a phase 2 to be able to get even more money or the rest of the money out and be able to be a little more targeted. But that targeting is going to take a little bit more work. So we didn't want to hold up some money in the beginning.
Mallory, did you?
Well, I just wanted to comment to the administrator that I would prefer that we continue with this round. I would think that most people that applied for the business, if they had more than one, probably picked the one that had the most income. And I know we've probably made mistakes because we've been tripping over our shoelaces trying to get this money out. We tried to rush, and sometimes haste makes waste and makes poor decisions, but I think we are making progress at getting things dispersed. I've heard people being pleasantly surprised that they are getting credits on their utility bills and whatnot. And is there room for improvement? Sure. But let's go through this application and then maybe open up another one for those people that have more than one city sales tax business if there's money left over that can be like reallocated from the electrical or whatever. But don't stop now because we won't be able to get it all dispersed. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my concurrence as well. And unless I've lost track of the numbers, there's going to be money left over. There's going to be money left over to do a second round with and so forth. I mean, that's something, anyway, yeah.
I'd still like to address Dr. Ween's question. We started with sales tax ID. That was the first number we looked at and how to do this. And this decision was not made in a vacuum. We realized that there were a lot of people who ran small businesses, sole proprietorships, deckhands, fishermen that don't have sales tax ID, and that would have excluded them from this program. So as Mr. Knox said, that's why we went with EIN or a tax ID or a tax identification number, something that says I have a business, I have profit and loss, and I am paying taxes to someone. We started there. We also, not knowing exactly how many of those entities were out there, we had to make our best calculated, I'll call it a calculated guess, but we had to make our best calculated guess on staying within that budget of $5 million. I personally started to get a little nervous when our first round of this was $25,000 grants all the way up to $100,000 grants. I didn't think we were going to have enough. So we started small in this first round to get more information, to find out just at least how many entities are out there without sales tax IDs for the city that would qualify. And we also wanted to find out how many DBAs, as much information as we could get who would apply for this thing, and then we can give have a more targeted program to do as much good as we can and stay within our budget.
Dr. Ween?
I appreciate everything that was said, but in this case, we make the rules. And the rule also could have been made that everyone who has a tax ID in the city would get it. Everyone who has an EIN would get it. Everyone who, et cetera. You didn't have to be so, I'll say, one-dimensional. It could have been just a check box. And so on that level, I don't understand because we had it within the power. And the reason I know we had it in the power is because one of the first comments was, well, the assembly agreed on this. And whenever any of that is said, it means we have the power to have
overseen it and agreed to it. But this, I'll say, nuance was not apparent to me, and I'd have to go back to the original forms to see how that I could have tweezed that nuance out unless I was told. And I feel that if there is going to be money left over, then all of these things should have been approved initially to allow the largest distribution to all those who might be deserving. The key here is that the feds, you know, which are sometimes hard masters to please, recognize them as having individual businesses for the payroll protection plan. And if you were afraid of running out of money, what happens is you bring all the applications in, you find out how much people are asking for, and then you make the division so your income and outcome are equal. Because if you do it that way, you may inadvertently short people because we ran out of money. So that being said, I'll say it is what it is, but it could have been something different. And so, thank you.
I'll have to jump in, and it's either the July 24th or July 28th. The application was presented with the FAQs that has this requirement listed in the FAQs.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, but some of us were transparent to that, John. We didn't get it. Fact is, we had to get applications in, get the total amount of money requested, and know where we are. How many applications do you have right now? Tell me. Give me a
I
rough-
don't know today's number. About 170 is what I had on Friday.
170 times 10 is 1.7 million dollars. There's going to be money left over.
Well, and yeah, I think,
Can I just finish, please? Yep. So we now know where we are. We have learned from mistakes. Clearly, what Marshall described is something that needs to be considered as we figure out after we've allocated the money that we got based on the request, and then we could go ahead and do a second iteration that takes care of the lessons learned to include what Marshall talked about. I mean, that's my view. To stop the whole process now, it's not going to be good for people who need the money. So anyway.
I just can kind of repeat what I said, but yeah, this is like what John says is we're making decisions, the best educated decisions we can make in assumptions on the money available. And we felt we knew that we needed to get money out and people needed it right away. And so this was our best attempt at doing that. So yes, was this imperfect? Of course it was. Are we going to try to, yeah, I agree. If we just stop now and redo everything, it's going to slow everything down. So I would prefer to finish this out and then do another round. This is a learning process. It's not perfect at all by any means. And it's not easy either.
Other comments from the assembly before we take a review of the whole, of where we are in the whole process?
I think it's also important to point out that
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot of guidance given by the Fed in handing, or the state in handing down this money, that while they do say how you cannot spend it, they did not put it out there about how they really wanted to see it spent. And what we were trying to do from the working group standpoint is, like Kevin said, put a real broad brush on this, because it's not enough money to make everybody whole or anything like that. If we put out every single penny of that money that we got from the state only to businesses and nonprofits, it wasn't going to make everybody whole in their losses. So what we're trying to do is, best broad strokes that we could to help the most number of people we could in a short amount of time. And it's an imperfect process.
Good. Go ahead, let's go review where we are. Sure, Marshall. But as you do this, sir. No, as you do this, I think we've heard you, and I think we're going to be sure that we're going to be able to make an adjustment. No, I'm just telling you that we heard your comments, and I think we're going to try to ensure that that we have a system that's fair and rational that will please you. Yeah, go ahead.
And normally, we don't allow
Yes.
back and forth.
Yeah.
That's why I asked permission. I guess one quick thing, if this comes out to 1.7 million.
I can't hear Marshall.
What am I doing? if this comes out on the quick calculation you just did at 1.7 million out of the 5 million, if there's all this money left over, then why in the heck would you want to short people or not pay for people that
Got it.
have?
Marshall, because we did not know what was gonna happen, we had no idea how many applications we were gonna get, so forth, so. Listen, we're doing the best we can.
I just have other questions that other people are asking too, sir. It's not just me. I'm not the only one.
Go ahead.
You know what?
No,
Thank you.
good. Go ahead, John.
Okay, I'll start from the top, but one point I want to make, because I've heard this, and I will say I somewhat take some personal offense to it. We started this process in this working group in May, and every single step and every single memo and every single note and application that has come out of that group has been published in the paper, has been read on the radio, and I don't think I could be any more transparent. I have tried to make this as much of a public process as possible. So I'll go from the top, from this same framework that has been published publicly multiple times. I'll start with our Category 1, the $4.5 million for utilities grants. That's closed out. We still have a handful that have appealed or have had questions about them that the Finance Department is working with. But it looks like we will have about 1.8 million left over. Give me a head nod there. About 1.8 million left over in that program. We will need to figure out what we could and would want to do with those remaining funds. In Category 2, that is a process that's working right now. That is the business and nonprofit grants. That number I gave you was from last Friday, and it was a spreadsheet of just here's who applied, here's what the application right now says they're eligible for. There's still an appeal process in there. As you've seen on that application, there's one box that says, I feel like my business or nonprofit is due more than what the city is offering in this program, so they will have the opportunity to come in, request an exception publicly to the assembly. So that's one level of appeal. Another level of appeal is if after the grant analyst reviews these, brings them to the finance department, and we make our decision on, and I want to make that very clear too, we as a city are making the decision there on whether they qualify or don't qualify under the FAQs and the application process. They can first appeal to me. If the appeal is not sufficient, then they can come publicly in an appeal to the assembly. I will only make an appeal decision based on the requirements of the program. As I said, that 170 was last week, so we're looking at probably a little over $1 million right now if everybody were to take the max amount. I expect a lot of applications to come in this week, but we'll do our best to get the number to you as quickly as possible. In Category 3, which is kind of our social programs and social assistance type
Can we just
programs.
stop there for a minute, John?
Yes, sir.
So that we, maybe I'm off base here, but if you just heard what he just said, for businesses and nonprofits and the things we just heard about here, we're gonna have several $1 million left to, based on experience and trying to do what's best for our businesses in our town, to allocate resources accordingly. So that's the good news. And thank you, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
In Category 3, I want to give you an update on where we are with the specific categories, or the subcategories, I'll call it. We are finalizing a sub-recipient agreement for the Housing Assistance Program with the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation and a child care program with THRED, AEYC. So that's just in the administration phase there and getting that stuff drafted up and ready to go. Just this morning, I had a meeting with the Sitka Conservation Society where they were the only bid, and we are negotiating a contract right now of the $300,000 available for them to work on a multitude of projects to include trail improvements, playground work, exploring new opportunities for trails and recreational opportunities for the community. As part of their contract, they have to hire unemployed or underemployed personnel due to COVID. So they'll be submitting those names to us along with a work plan for every one of their proposed projects. That work plan will come into Public Works, so they'll know about it. And then we will basically approve every phase of work. When they finish it, they come to us and say, here's what was done, here were the hours we're billing, and then we pay them within the terms of the contract. So I hope to have that contract signed by the end of the week. We have submitted a sub-recipient agreement to the tribe for $200,000 for the food assistance program, and they're partnering with some local agencies and especially our local fishermen to get some of that money spread through the community and help some of our local stakeholders. We've not received a signed copy of that back yet, but that's ready to execute. And we've also, I'm kind of moving on to the next category, so I'll hold here, but there's an RFI out right now, and I think it closes at the end of next week for any mental and behavioral health providers in town that can support our citizens who are uninsured or underinsured. Again, for COVID, everything has to tie back to COVID. And I'm looking for them to provide quotes for blocks of time or resources they would need for expansion to be able to serve more customers for the citizens. We've also offered our employee assistance program to the Sitka School District employees till the end of this CARES Act money period. And that we'll find out usage as the basically as the charges come in under our existing EAP contract. That's the update I have right now for Category 3. Moving on to Category 4, which is the city needs. We've had an engineer come in who's helping us with our bankers' windows and the social distancing and changes we want to make to the utility office specifically, so people can pay their utilities a little more efficiently and kind of maintain some distance from the people behind the counter. We've got cleaning efforts, we've got touchless faucets, basically just anything health and sanitation wise that we're looking into. So that program is also working. We've also got a lot of purchases pending for PPE and equipment for the first responders. I mean, I can give you a long list of them, but I don't have that list in front of me right now. But that's active right now. Moving on to Category 5, we have signed the sub-recipient agreement for the school district based on their request, and we have not received the signed copy back from them, but that agreement is also out to distribute those funds. Category 6 is our, I believe it's about $630,000. That's our contingency fund that we use if we have to hire, in this case, like a grant analyst or somebody to assist with the administration or management of the funds if we can't do it in-house. So that's the updates I have for right now, and I can provide some better numbers, hopefully, at the September 8th meeting if we've got enough data together by then on where Category 2 and the business grants are. Thanks.
Dr. Wayne.
Just a quick question. You mentioned a grant analyst who will be looking at, who is the grant analyst?
We hired a grant analyst. It is, he's a temp employee. It's Rob Allen right now who's assisting with that.
Other comments from the assembly? Please.
Just thanks for the staff for all the hard work you're doing to implement this. I know I said I'm part of the work group, and I know Kevin and I are working on it, but you guys are doing the lion's share of all this, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd also like to throw out a thank you to Gary White and Robin Sherman for contributing quite a bit to the working group. They've done quite a bit of liaison work sort of with their respective target groups, the nonprofit organizations and the business community, and they've brought in a lot of information, which has been really helpful.
Yep, they have.
My judgment is that the challenge you have now for the working group, with all the data you got in now, where you should be more clearly able to see need and results, that you are able to put together a really deliberative program to ensure, because we could be talking about multi-million dollars here to take care of everything from the kind of needs we heard from our persons to be heard today to businesses that are critical, that need significant amounts of money. I won't put a price on it, much more than $10,000 because of their viability. You got a program that is able to take care of our businesses in their town. I mean, and I know you and I have talked about some of the ideas, but this is going to be a really critical challenge that you could do a good analysis to ensure that we do the best we can with this significant amount of money that we're going to have available after our current first deal. Other comments or concerns from the Assembly?
Could I make a couple
sure.
last points, Mayor? A few things. One, I think it's important to understand that the grant analyst that we hired is not the decision authority on whether or not a person's application is approved or denied. As I said, that will fall with city staff. The grant analyst's job is to bring us the no-brainer easy ones that are approved, the ones that still have some questions, and the ones that are recommended for denial. So we will review every one of those as a city staff and make a decision on those, and I explained the appeal process. Another thing I'd like to point out is if you've noticed through these updates that I give, city has been the lowest priority in this. I hope that speaks volumes that every bit of money that we're trying to get out, if you look at all these categories, it's in utilities and harbors grants, helping the citizens, the business and nonprofit grants, helping the citizens. The social programs is to help the citizens. The school district is to help the people in the schools. We have a very small portion set aside for city needs. I mean, I personally wish it was more money to help out with some of our needs, but I'm trying to show that the citizens are the top priority in this program, and we're trying to do as most good as we can for as many people as possible. But at some point, I know we can't use CARES Act money for revenue replacement, but the Treasury came out today with, I think they changed the list from 6 eligible uses of CARES funds to now 16 or something like that. So there are more categories now that we might be able to use as a city, which means we have to spend less of our own budget if it is CARES eligible. So I want to put that piece out there for consideration if we come back to the table with extra funds.
Yeah, for what it's worth, for the relevance, the city's going to lose probably $5 to $7 million between 2020 and 2021 in sales tax. So, I mean, okay, other comments from the Assembly before we move forward? Okay, good. We're at 2168, discussion direction on the city and borough Sitka seal project. You want us to turn it over to Kevin, is that it? Kevin Knox?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Stephen was going to kind of take the lead on this and then wasn't able to make it tonight, not feeling well. So I'm going to ask if Amy can come up, and I'm going to lean on her a little bit, but we wanted to bring forward the seal entries and then some of the feedback that we got from both our boards and commissions, from the Sitka Tribal Council, and then also from the public work sessions that we had with the community to discuss the entries and the feedback that people had regarding the possibility of a change of our city seal. So in your packets, you saw that the different contest entries ranging from line art drawing with some color to some digital graphic looking entries. Nobody knew the entrance, who produced the art necessarily, but we got a whole range of people bringing entries forward. Amy, can you remind me how many we got in total? Wasn't it 17 in total?
I believe it was 12 in total.
12 in total, that's right. And we put forward, you know, a smaller handful of those to take out on our road show, so to speak. And of all the entries that we got, a lot of them were really received quite well. People liked the design ideas, liked the intent, and liked the direction that many of them were going. There is some interest in the ones that kind of stood out in approaching the artists and asking if they wouldn't mind making a few changes or adding things here or there, just to kind of round out any of the design entries that would kind of rise to the top. So, Amy, if you wouldn't mind going through some of the feedback that we got and the you know, top lines of that presentation, that would be great.
Sure, yeah, I can
And
just speak to...
Before you start, I do want to say too that Amy did an amazing job in bringing this forward and being able to present it and you know, to every one of our boards and commissions, but then also getting it out into the public. I really do thank you for that. You did some great work there.
Thank you, Kevin. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the data that's in your packet. I wanted to just try and provide some summarized data from the different reviews at the boards and commission levels, and then we did have a couple of other public outreach avenues that we went through as well.
So how do you rate these, or what's going to be the process for recommending the seal?
That is really up to the assembly and how you would like to proceed.
Right.
I can share the data from the public outreach in terms of which of the seals were more popular, and that was provided to you to help kind of inform what your decision might be. I think there are a couple of different options. If there's one or two that really stand out, but perhaps need some modification or need to be cleaned up, then we can take that back to the artists or the contest entrants to make those final changes, and then bring those maybe top 1 to 3 back to the assembly to choose between. If there's one that you feel very strongly about, Kevin, you could propose a motion to move forward with one in particular after tonight. If you would like to spend more time with them as well, there's a lot of options at this point, and really what we wanted to do was just kind of arm you with information tonight about as much as we've been able to gather from the public over the last about month and a half.
I think one of the other things that Stephen and I talked about too, and approaching the body with what we have now is get an idea from you if what would be most appropriate is for Stephen and I and staff to further consolidate what we have, maybe come forward with 2, 3 different options, and then have the body then deliberate on which one would be, if any of them would be the one that we would like to move forward with, or if we want to just leave the group that we have here and deliberate from there. I think it is. I mean, all of these entries have been out in the public for quite some time now. I don't think it's of any harm to continue to have people look at them, discuss them, and consider them for the possibility of a change of our seal. And we're open to hearing from the body about what direction you would like to see this go.
So I was just going to say, it looked like from the materials that there was a lot of favor for entry number 12. Is that right? Was I reading that right?
Yes, that number 12 did rank in one of the more popular.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really have a passion one way or another. I think that is a very good one, and that without even looking at people's comments, that was one of my favorite. I'm just saying that.
12 and 5, did rise to the top with most commission boards and
yeah, the only thing I would say about 5 is It looks like, I mean, if we're just talking about opinions, I like it. I think it's a really snazzy design, but it looks like something you'd see on Visit Sitka, like come visit Sitka, like an advertisement to come. Whereas number 12 looks more like a city seal. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Those are my two favorite, or I'm sorry, number 12 is my favorite. And I don't know what the other members want to do or how they want to proceed.
Wayne, Valerie, you got Valerie? Yes.
I don't really like 12 because, like the comments say, it's too conical. I like 5 better than 12. Thanks.
Dr. Wayne?
This is going to be a city seal on official documents. And so I'll say it should look like a seal. I don't mean, wanting to get a fish or something, but it should have that kind of look to it. I gather from hearing Mr. Knox that these things are subject to change if we would like to see additions. One thing I noticed that is absent from all of them is the iconic St. Michael's, for example, in some representation. And so that to me, in dealing with content, I think that, obviously you can't have everything in there, but there are certain things within Sitka which are probably, very identifiable. And so, as far as number 5 goes, I think it's pretty neat, but I agree that maybe because of its coloring, I think I've seen it somewhere before, and it's something that I would see if I would open up the airline magazine, Alaska Airlines, while I'm waiting to go to Seattle and see it on a lodge or something or related to Sitka. It doesn't seem like an official seal. So if...
What do you think about number 10, Dr. Ween? It does have, it's kind of hard to see it, but it does have the cathedral there on number 10. It's a little different than normal, but I like
Yeah, well, the thing is that what makes it a little difficult is because each of the emblems are in some various state of completeness. And so therefore, let's just say number 10, if it were more complete, it may be a more desirable one, whereas I think people gravitate to number 5 is because precisely, I think it's a great design, but also it is very complete as far as a work of art. And so, number 6 does have that I am a seal kind of look. It's in essence, flat, more two-dimensional, and that type of thing. So whatever we do, I hope it will be around for a long, long time, because doing this every year is, I don't think, a goal. So even though it would be a great contest, but, but like I said, these are all in some state of incompleteness. I don't know where exactly we go with this at this particular moment.
Well, it's hard with 2 members gone. This is, whenever we come to some sort of real completion, it really should have the full body weighing in on it.
But these were my just my off-the-cuff observations.
Yeah, I think 5, and Dr. Wayne's comments about number 10 was interesting, number 12. Has a tribe weighed in terms of which is their favorite?
The tribes, the tribe did, tribal council did discuss this. This one that I'm projecting now, number 4, was their preference. There were some modifications that were requested on that. The orientation of the canoe to the boat should be altered. That was a request made by STA, and we've also had the Historic Preservation Commission look at this as well, and they felt that there, as Dr. Ween put it, that there's various levels of completeness here, but there could be some alterations to the artwork on the canoe so that it looks, more like traditional native artwork on the canoe. So, yeah,
Well,
the SDA comments are in the packet. as
The only
well.
problem I see with number, sorry, Dr. Wayne, you're going to talk. Number 4 is, we have to remember that these seals are going to be real small on a piece of paper. And it's like there's a lot of detail in there, and I get concerned that it would be obscured. All the detail won't be really viewable. I don't know. I don't know what people think about that.
One of the challenges we have, we are so diverse and so complex. I mean, we got so many things, the National Cemetery, St. Michael's, St. Peter's. I mean, it goes on. I have no idea, but it just,
In number 4, obviously the troller looks like the captain is saying ramming speed. Reminds me of an old movie. But the important thing, we have eagle and raven, and if you want to deal that with traditional totemic type of representations, that may also be of interest. I presume those are killer whale fins. But they actually, because of the pointed nature, there's something about the artistic rendering which makes them look like a scene out of Jaws. And so there are a few definite things that can be touched up on these in order to make them. Also, the fish, I like 4. There are elements that are really nice. The fishes that are running around seem to be, I'll say, not well developed. Meaning artistically, more cartoonish, and I think the overall design I think is interesting, but like I said, there's a level of completeness that needs to occur before we make
we give you
a
enough
final
guidance?
decision.
Sorry, Dr. Wayne. I
That's
apologize.
okay.
Gary, Mr. Mayor, which one is your favorite? I'm just curious. We're just talking here.
I said number 5, but again, I'm not an artist, and this is not my wheelhouse. I defer to people who've got more artistic ability than I do on this thing. Do you have enough guidance, Amy, to go forward and continue the process, or do you want something more from us?
Well, I'll also ask for Mr. Knox to weigh in on that as well. From my perspective, I think, because with Kevin and Stephen kind of steering the project, what guidance they have from us will be very helpful. I'm not entirely sure at this point what more information that staff could work on to get for you. I don't know if you would like us to narrow down this list, if there are certain ones that you are most interested in that you'd like us to have the artists maybe make some modifications on. So I don't know that it's exactly clear what you would like to do yet.
If 5 seems to be a people's favorite because of the graphic Sitka and the lettering is, I'll say, very artistic as opposed to formal. If you look at the other ones on the top, City and Borough of Sitka, where I would be interested to see if the graphic design of the lettering might change to look a little more formal. It may again have a lot of the elements which would be good, because like I said, it looks like something for a lodge as opposed to a city seal, even though it's very artistic, but it is a formal thingy that you don't want confused.
Would it be up just to the body if we brought forward 3 submission entries at the next opportunity that would incorporate some of the feedback that we got into those 3 entries that the public and boards and commissions were interested in?
Well, it seems like
One of the things that we heard quite a bit from quite a number of different bodies, but then also from tribal council is somehow incorporating Shika into the design somewhere, the Shika Kwan, if possible.
The only comment I was going to say is I think narrowing it down to 3 is a little bit too early. I mean, Dr. Ween's right, it's going to be around for a long, long time. I mean, narrowing it down a little bit, but I'll re-say it again. My favorite is 12. It's very peaceful. It's got some native culture with the totem pole. It's got a fishing boat. It's got the nature with that beautiful bird and the mountain edgecombe, of course. That's my personal favorite. But something that just occurred to me is for the next, maybe we could just put this off for a month and have another review with all the assembly members present. And would you be able to give us handouts printed of these entries as it would appear on a piece of stationery? Because this is what it's going to be on. I mean, because, yeah, the city seal is going to be on the trucks or whatever, but most of the time it's on the paperwork. It would be nice to see what it actually is going to look like on a piece of paper. I think that would help, a lot of this too.
Yeah. John?
Just more of a, hopefully a comical comment is on number 4, or actually number 5. I appreciate the plug for Coast Guard Aviation there, but it'd be nice if they'd put a Jayhawk on there instead of what we used to call Tupper Wolf that we don't fly here.
Noted.
Or how about some seagulls? If you were to ask me today what I would vote on, I think the nicer composition is number 12. The coloration and so forth is very interesting. I have my other choices, but that has a nice touch to it.
Okay, we'll give it back, Amy, to you and to Steve and to Kevin. And based on all this definitive guidance, right, come back at an appropriate time with 3 or 4 or whatever you think is the right amount of designs for us to review again. And I'd like to hear also, if we get it, if we could, like, I would always be interested in what the tribe's position would be, historical society would be, and if there's other entities, we can just sort of hear that. Other comments before we go to the next issue?
I would just say I'd rather just at least 5, not 3. If you're going to narrow it down, I'd like to at least have 5. And that's just my
Yeah,
opinion.
we can pull between this discussion, the feedback from boards and commissions, and the public survey. We should be able to pull the top 5
Yep,
pretty easily.
good. Thank you very much. Right.
Mr. Mayor, can we take a break?
We'll,
We haven't
why not?
taken.
Let's take a 5-minute break. Yeah.
I move to approve the promotion of Melissa Haley from Controller to Finance Director.
Here a second.
I'll second. I told Melissa, I'm very excited, although the conservative side of me has a problem with bringing somebody in at the current rate of the Chief Financial Executive Officer. And I see, like, following this, we have, you know, somebody that's been here, if I read it correctly, Melissa's been here for 3 years, and we're going to raise her from $52.49 an hour to $63.77. So, you know, that's like probably a 20,000 plus increase per year, which, you know, is going to be an expense that's there for a long time. I would prefer it to see it at a lower, you know, maybe at the same step, but the lower level. And when I look at the one directly following this, it's somebody that's been here for 4 years. And, you know, the manager currently makes $4 more, and the guy's getting $4 less. So to me, it's like there's a disparity there, and I kind of have a problem with that. Thank you.
Well, I'm very excited that Melissa Haley will be ascending to the Chief Financial Officer or Finance Director. I think that her credentials are sterling, and I look forward to her ability to help steer the city in a good financial way. And so, that being said, it reminds me of a L'Oreal commercial. That's hair coloring for women. And the commercial is, it may cost a little more, but I'm worth it. And so I would like to start this out because I do believe that she will prove her worth in the short run, and I think she already has in a short run, and also in the long run. So I'm tickled, and thank you for continuing to stay here in Sitka when I know opportunities for you could be in many, many other places. But we also know you're a Sitka Wolf, so it's hard to leave. So thank you.
I ditto what Dr. Wien said. I think it'll be worth it long term. The finance department, I mean, all the departments are important, but the finance department is extremely fundamental for the functioning of this city. If you don't have that under control, management, understanding of it, managing of it, everything else is going to fall apart. And I think you're the person for the job. Thank you for being willing to serve. And as Dr. Wien said, I think that you'll be worth the pay. And thank you very much.
Thank you. You know, it's in good shape, so you got a department, you got to do it. Okay, call for the vote, please.
Mayor, can I make some comments?
Yeah.
I just want to start out, I made this offer to Melissa based on her sterling record, as Dr. Wien put it. You know, we're paying for the experience, and fortunately, this is it's transparent to the budget, really, which shouldn't be an issue, considering this is a type of position that pays typically over $200,000 in the private sector in some areas of our country. In short, Melissa's a rock star. She's a Sitka local, and anything we can do to keep her here and continue the amazing work that she's done already would be greatly appreciated and a help to the staff.
Great. Call for the vote.
Okay, on the motion to approve the promotion of Melissa Haley from Controller to Finance Director, Mayor Paxton?
Yes.
Mr. Knox?
Yes.
Mr. Mosier?
Yes.
Dr. Wien?
Yes.
And Ms. Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 on item G.
We're We are now at item H. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the promotion of Antonio Rosas to Harrigan Centennial Hall Building Supervisor to Harrigan Centennial Hall Building Manager.
Second.
Comments from the public? Once, twice, thrice. Back to the assembly? Yes, Dr. Wayne.
Again, another great choice. I think that Tony has been here a long time. I think he knows the ups and downs, ins and outs of Centennial Hall and how to make it work. And again, it's delightful that people want to stay and to succeed and move on within the positions here in Sitka. It's always a little harder for new people coming in, I'll say, to get the Sitkan nuance here, but I'm happy that there will be a great transition, and I won't even mention who he's sitting next to, which makes it even more important. So again, thank you for hanging in there, and congratulations. So, and can we talk about the type of coffee you have there? I like French roast, okay?
My comments, yeah, we're lucky to have Tony available to take this important position, but again, I want to thank Don Cluding for his incredible job over the last 20 or 30 years. Okay, call for the vote.
Mr. Knox?
Yes.
Mayor Paxton?
Yes.
Dr. Ween?
Yes.
Mr. Mosier?
Yes.
And Ms. Nelson?
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0 on item H.
We are now under persons to be heard on any item on or off the agenda. Persons to be heard on any item on or off the agenda. Once, twice. Okie dokie. We'll now go to reports. I have none. Mr. Administrator?
I had the special report that I gave at the beginning about the new press release, but the only thing I'd like to add for my report is to urge everyone to get online, check the newspaper, check the radio, check the radio's website, or come to City Hall and apply for the business and nonprofit grant if you are eligible, and keep an eye out for the solicitations out there for services that we're looking for some assistance. And we actually posted the openings for temporary employees under our transitional employment program on the city's website as well today for some jobs in public works and assisting with the tree and landscape and parks and rec. So we're looking for some help there too. That's all.
Mr. Hanson?
No report tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Liaison reports, liaison reps? Yes, Dr. Wayne.
Tree and landscape met, and it's important to know that Lisa Moore, who is on the landscape committee, is also on the forestry council for the state and on the state tree committee, and people have to understand that that's very important, and it's also important for us to have a representative from southeast here for that. Another topic of conversation was the tree and landscape actually gets their hands dirty as far as doing landscaping around the city, and the question was raised about them receiving CARES Act funds, not for themselves per se, but to purchase trees and so forth, especially for a project they were planning around the playground. And I hope that something like this, they will be guided to being able to have funds. The other meeting I attended was the Healthcare Human Needs Committee, and that there were a number of issues which we continually talk about. One, which is food security and composting, perennially comes up, and it would be very nice to be able to get some of those projects off the ground. I know that the city does some composting. There is always the basic topic of the substance abuse, and that they will be handing out or getting together mini reports as to what's going on in Sitka. In essence, that was it, except for discussing the Collective Impact Board. And just to give Mr. Hanson a warning that I will be passing on the bike ordinance that has been circulating around through that committee, and I think you might be aware of it, just to put it on your list for review and to see what touch-ups it needs, et cetera, before it comes to our table here, meaning the assembly table. So that's just a heads up. Thank you.
Yes, Valerie.
I attended the LEPC meeting almost 2 weeks ago, and we had an update from the administrator on the pandemic.
It's still here. Yeah, other comments from you? Can I have a motion for adjournment, please? Yeah, sorry, clerk. Thank you, Sarah, my apologies. Yeah.
I wanted to remind folks, the municipal election is coming up. It's Tuesday, October 6th. Sickens will have various options available for voting by mail, advanced voting in person, which will begin September 21st and run through October 5th here at Harrigan Centennial Hall, weekdays from 8:30 to 4:30. They can vote by fax, by personal rep, or of course on election day here at the Centennial Building. I wanted to put in a plug again for folks to respond to the 2020 census. We're at about 56% for Sitka, so it's critical. Your last day to respond is September 30th. And then finally, I'll just read through a list of current vacancies on our boards and commissions. The Animal Hearing Board, Building Department Appeals Board, Health Needs and Human Services Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, Library Commission, Local Emergency Planning Commission, Parks and Recreation Committee, Planning Commission, Police and Fire Commission, Port and Harbors Commission, and Tree and Landscape Committee. So lots of opportunity for folks to serve. If you're interested, contact our office.
Others? Can I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.